Hello listeners and viewers. Welcome to Kaduna State Ministry of Education Radio and TV e-learning program designed for our SS3 and other students staying at home due to the coronavirus pandemic. The present administration, under the able leadership of His Excellency, Malam Nasir Ahmed El-Rufai, is positioned as always to ensure that under his leadership, our students are not left behind in all areas of human endeavors, especially education. Kaduna State is the center of learning. Therefore, we want to ensure that our students excel in their forthcoming examinations and beyond. Students and other learners at home are given this opportunity in order to continue learning, as education is a continuous process. Different subjects will be taught in this program to assist students to perform excellently in the forthcoming Senior School Certificate examination being conducted by NECO and WAEC as soon as schools reopen. Teachers making presentations will always provide their names and phone numbers during each presentation, and they can be contacted for questions, further explanations, and/or clarifications. The following numbers and contacts can also be reached for expression of any concern or observation: 090-865-00545 or 080-383-62072. Our website is www.education.kdsg.gov.ng. Our email education@kdsg.gov.ng or education.kdsg@gmail.com. Our YouTube channel, Ministry of Education, Kaduna State. Our Twitter handle @Kaduna_MOE. Or our Facebook page, Ministry of Education, Kaduna State. Stay safe, stay at home, and learn well. Thank you, happy listening, and happy viewing.
Good day, learners. You are welcome to another segment of Agricultural Science class. Our topic for today is irrigation. My name is Rashida Umar. Today, we are going to look at the meaning of irrigation, importance of irrigation. We proceed to types of irrigation system, problems of irrigation system. Then we look at the summary and assignment. Irrigation. What is irrigation? Irrigation is defined as the artificial application of water, artificial application of water to the soil or land for farming purpose. In other words, irrigation is the artificial application of water to soil to supplement insufficient rainfall needed by plants for their growth, development, and production. It involves the conveyance of water from a source, such as river, lake, well, etc., to the farm. What we mean here by irrigation, it's just simply defined as the artificial application of water to the farmland. And this source of water that we apply, it can be well water, river, or a pond. And this artificial application of water, it supplements rainfall. We apply water in the dry season, period where there is insufficient rainfall. Importance of irrigation. Now, let's look at the importance of this irrigation system. Why do we practice irrigation system? Number one, we say it provides soil with water and overcomes drought. It provides, that is the irrigation water, it provides soil with what? With water, so that we overcome drought. Even a period or dry season, we can go ahead and continue with cultivation of our crops without necessarily waiting for raining season. Secondly, it leads to increase in productive land, such as salty area that may be leached away with irrigation water to make it suitable for production. Crops doesn't need too much salt. So one of the importance of this irrigation is that it leach away the salt, so that it make the land very suitable for crop production. Thirdly, it provides pastures for livestock during dry season. As a farmer, your livestock, they have to what? They have to keep on grazing 24 hours and every time throughout the year. So when it is during the dry season, these livestock, they go short of what? Of grasses. But with the help of irrigation, they what? They graze continuously. Another important is that it makes possible double cropping of variable crops. In other words, it increases crop production. What we mean here is that this possible double cropping, instead of you as a farmer to be cultivating crops only during the rainy season, but with the help of irrigation, you can cultivate maybe as many times as possible within a year, maybe twice, thrice, or even 4 times in a year, depending on the type of crop you are cultivating. With the what? With the help of irrigation. Number 5, it leads to increase in farmers' income. Definitely, it will increase the what? Income of the farmer, because instead of the farmer to cultivate only once in a year, that is only the raining season, now with the help of irrigation, he is cultivating as many times as possible. So he's having income. That is, money is coming in throughout the year. It brings about efficiency of fertilizer usage, especially in fertigation. This fertigation, it simply means application of fertilizer into irrigation water. You put the fertilizer into your irrigation water and you irrigate your farmland. That means you have done 2 in 1. At the same time, you have irrigated the water, and at the same time, you have also applied your fertilizer into the crop or soil. Now, let's look at types of irrigation system. Irrigation systems can be grouped into 3 main groups. We have the surface irrigation, we have subsurface irrigation, and we also have the overhead irrigation, which we are going to take them one after the other. The first one is the surface irrigation. Surface irrigation, in this system, water from rivers, dams, or streams flow along the surface of the land to what? To the farmland. This can be in form of channels, flooding, furrow, or border dick. The most important condition for surface irrigation to be efficient is for the land to have gentle slope toward the direction of the farmland. What we mean here in this surface irrigation is a system of irrigation whereby you use what? Channels or flooding or border dike to what? To water your plants. And it has to be in what? In a slopey area, so that the water will flow through the channels or through the dike, or they will float in direction of what? The slopey area. It has to be slopey. Now, as you can see, this is a diagram showing surface irrigation. If you look at it very well, you see that this one, they are channels. And already in the water, we have what? Pipes that will pump the water directly to the channels. And the channels, they are in between the what? The ridges of the crops. This is a typical example of a surface irrigation. And this surface irrigation is one of the what? Oldest method that we have been using. It is very simple to use. Now, let's look at the advantages of this surface irrigation. Number 1, it removes excess water caused by heavy rainfall, especially in heavy soils. It is easier to construct. Irrigation is cheap to establish and maintain. It prevents accumulation of alkaline, because the water is always flowing, it's going away with the accumulated or acidic of the soil. Number 5, it helps in collection and disposal of runoff. Disadvantages of surface irrigation. It cannot be practiced where the land is hilly. When the land is on hill, you cannot practice surface irrigation, because the water cannot flow from what? From low level to a higher level. That is where we prefer place where it is slopey. It is more suitable at a very slopey land. Number 2, it cannot be successful in sandy soil. If the soil is sandy, you cannot practice surface irrigation, because it will be draining the water. It will not allow it to flow. Number 3, the volume of water, especially in flooding, may be difficult to control. One major advantage of this surface irrigation is that when the volume of water is flowing, it is very difficult for you to control that water. So if care is not taken, anything can happen. It can even flow down and wash away the crops. Number 4, some crops may not tolerate heavy flooding. Some crops do not tolerate heavy flooding. There are so many crops like the maize and other type of crops that do not tolerate heavy flooding. The second type of irrigation is the subsurface irrigation. In this system, it involves the movement of surface water from distance below the earth's surface to maintain artificial water table. Perforated pipes are laid below ground into which water is pumped. The water gets to the root zone in soil by capillarity. Here in subsurface irrigation, you don't lie your pumps above, but you do what? You have to lie the pumps under the soil so that the water will just reach your plant through the capillary, through its roots. There is no need for you to fix your pumps outside. Nobody will see the pumps because they are already what? Buried under. They are laid under the soil. This is a typical example of subsurface irrigation. As you can see here, these are the pipes. They are being connected under the soil. So this water will just be reaching your crops through their what? Roots. Now let's look at the advantages of this subsurface irrigation. Number 1, it does not interfere with movement of machinery. As I earlier told you that the pipes, they are laid where? Under the soil. So your machineries, it will not affect or it will not interfere with machineries because they are what? They are laid under. They are not visible. You will not see them outside. So it will allow your machinery to move freely on your farm land. Number 2, it makes economic use of water. Because it is under the ground, it will not allow the water to be flowing like the surface irrigation, and you waste a lot of water. Here, the water is what? Is economized. The third advantage, losses due to evaporation are reduced. In surface irrigation, especially places like the desert where the sunlight is shining, evaporation takes place. It evaporates part of the water. But here in subsurface irrigation, since it is under, it is not exposed to sunlight, so evaporation will not take place. Number 4, it can be used in loose soils like the sandy soil. In surface irrigation, we said sandy soil is not suitable. But here, you can also use loose soils, example like the sandy soil. They can be suitable in this subsurface irrigation. Number 5, it reduces the incidence of pests and disease. Since the pipes are laid under the ground, so it will what? It will reduce incidence of what? Pests and disease. Disadvantages of subsurface irrigation. One of the major disadvantages of this subsurface irrigation is that it is expensive. It is very expensive to what? To operate. Secondly, salt hazard may increase because the water is not moving. So since the water is not moving, we have there is tendency of salt hazard to what? To increase. Number 3, it requires some level of expertise or technical know-how. It's not everybody that can connect it. It needs somebody that is what? Knowledgeable on this aspect. The third one is the overhead irrigation. In overhead irrigation, water is supplied to farmland above the soil. This exists in 2. These are overhead irrigation. They exist in two, that is, there are two types. We have the sprinkler irrigation and we also have the drip irrigation. In sprinkler irrigation, in this system, water is spread from the air and allowed to fall on the ground surface just like rainfall through nozzles under high pressure. Here we said water, they are allowed to fall. They will fall down just like rainfall, but they do fall through what? Nozzles of perforated pipes, but through what? With the help of high pressure. Pumping machine which operates under high pressure is needed to pump water into irrigation pipes which are spread to ensure even distribution of water. We need pumping machines here so that they will what? They will pump the water with high pressure, and we are going to have what? Even distribution. Because the sprinkler system will just be rotating and it will be what? It will be spreading the water on what? Even distribution. As you can see, this is a diagram showing sprinkler irrigation. Now, these are the pipes. As you can see, the nozzles is there where the water is coming out, but with the help of what? Pressure, with the help of pumping machine. It is the pumping machine that is pumping that water with high pressure, and the water is coming out through what? Through the nozzles. And as you can see, the water will now be falling on the crops just like rainfall. Advantages of sprinkler irrigation. It does not interfere with movement of machinery. This type of irrigation does not interfere with movement of machineries because there are gaps in between one pipe to the other, so the machines can move in between the pipes. Number two, it makes economic use of water. Number three, it is suitable for land of all kind of topography. Whether the land is hilly or is slopy, this method is what? Is suitable. Less land is taken out of production because we only fix the pipes just in between, and it takes a little land out of the production. Number five, it can be used for many crops. So many types of crops you can use this sprinkler system. It reduces the incidence of pest and disease. It reduces pest and disease. Why? Because water is not left stagnant. Unlike the first system, which is the surface irrigation, whereby the water flows and they remain stagnant, so that will cause or invade pest and disease. But here, water is not left stagnant, so it reduces the incidence of pest and disease. Soluble fertilizers and herbicides can apply through irrigation water. My dear student, you can apply your fertilizer or herbicide through irrigation water. As I earlier mentioned, the fertigation. Fertigation is what? Application of fertilizer in irrigation water. So you can put your fertilizer in irrigation water and you apply it at the same time. You can also apply the herbicide and you apply it to your crops at the same time. But you can only use the soluble fertilizers. Disadvantages of sprinkler irrigation. One of the major disadvantages of this sprinkler irrigation is that it is expensive. So it's not everybody that can afford. It is only the farmers that are practicing commercial farming because they have money, so they can practice that system. It requires a steady source of water supply. In this system, you must have a steady water supply before you can practice sprinkler irrigation system. It requires high power to operate, which is not always available. We need high power to operate because we use what? We use the pumping machines to pump the water. So where there is no power, you cannot operate. And you know, power now is always not available. Wind may cause uneven water distribution. Another disadvantage of this method is that when the wind blows, it will what? It will interfere with what? With the distribution of water. So maybe more water will be dropped on other place than the other side because of wind, because of the interference of wind. It requires skill to operate. It's not every farmer or it's not anybody that can just come and start operating this sprinkler system. It needs what? Skills. The second type of overhead irrigation is drip. We said overhead is divided into two. We have the sprinkler and the drip. So this is, now we are going to talk about the drip. That is the second type under overhead irrigation. Drip irrigation, which is also known as trickle system, it supplies the plant enough water at determined frequency. It makes use of lines of plastic type and emitters to supply water to the base of the plant. It is used for fruit crops such as citrus, pawpaw, guava, etc. Here, it is plastic that we use, and it has what? It has emitters. That is what? Distributing or supplying water directly to the roots of the plant. As you can see here, this is an example of drip irrigation. These are the plastic pipes that are laid in between the crops, and we have opening, that is the emitters, directly under each root of the plant where it will be supplying irrigation water. Advantages of drip irrigation: it minimizes water loss. Number two, it uses less power than sprinkler irrigation. Sprinkler irrigation, it needs what? We say pressure. We need pumping machine to pump it, and it needs a very high pressure. Unlike here in drip irrigation, the power needed here is less. Number three, fertilizers can be applied with this system. You can also apply fertilizer with this system. That is their method of fertigation, applying fertilizer into the irrigation water. Number four, salt concentration around the plant root is reduced. The salt concentration will reduce because of the water. This water will be what? It will be washing away the salt concentration, and it will reduce what? The acidity of the soil. Number five, it reduces build-up of pest and disease because water is not left stagnant. Disadvantages of drip irrigation. One of the major disadvantages here is that it is expensive to acquire the equipment. Number two, it may not be effective in steep slope areas. Areas where it is what? Steep slope, it will not what? It will not be effective because the pipes need to be laid on straight lines and on flat land. Now, students, before we move to these problems associated with irrigation practices, I know some of you will start wondering, okay, me, I'm having a small garden or small nursery, so is it necessary for me to go and start this surface, subsurface, or the overhead system? No. If you are having your small garden at home, my student, you have other simple local method. So you can use what? You can use your broom or brush to be watering your nursery. Or you can use what? Your ordinary watering can to water your plant. It's not necessary for you to what? To apply the surface, subsurface, or the overhead irrigation system. Now, let's look at the problems associated with these irrigation practices. Number one, inadequate water supply for irrigation. Most of the farmers, the problem that they face is what? Inadequate water. Number two, irrigation equipment are expensive to what? To purchase and maintain. Most of these irrigation systems, they are what? They are expensive, both to operate and to maintain. Number three, pests from dry surroundings may invade and damage crops in irrigated areas. Number four, pests build up and spread. 5, disease-causing organisms increase with increasing humidity. 6, inadequate technical know-how on irrigation establishment and operation. Number 7, excessive dissolution of salt in irrigation water prevents proper growth of crop because of pH, that is the low acidity and alkalinity of the soil. Number 8, it may lead to pollution. if it contains dangerous chemicals. That is, if the irrigation water contains dangerous chemicals, it will lead to what? To pollution. Number 9, it disturbs the free movement of farm machinery, especially in drip irrigation. If you are practicing drip irrigation, the pipes are already laid on your land, so you cannot use machineries. Now, students, we have come to the end of this lesson. But before I go, I will leave you with this assignment. Number 1, define irrigation. I said number 1, define irrigation. Number 1B, state 2 aims of irrigation. Number 1C, list 5 problems associated with irrigation. This is past question paper, SSCE June 1995. The second question there is, mention 3 types of irrigation. 2, list 4 sources of irrigation water. 3, mention 5 importance of irrigation. For further inquiry, I have references here. There are some books here that you can contact. The first one, we have Essential Agricultural Science for Senior Secondary School by Iwena. Number 2, Prescribed Agricultural Science for Senior Secondary School by S.A. Omo-Rui. We have another one, Agricultural Science for Senior Secondary School by M.F. Mofo-Lafe. Student, in case of any question or any inquiry, or if you want to submit your assignment, you can contact us through this number. Rashida Umar, that is myself, 080-3451-3576. Thomas Peter, my colleague, 080-51-21-63-65. Sharifat T. Abubakar, 080-68-29-39-28. Stay home, stay safe, and keep planning. Always remember to wash your hand with running water and detergent. Thank you for listening.